And welcome back to TL Talks Podcast. I am TL. It's great to have you. Like and subscribe. Appreciate you. First segment of the day for this month is called Thought of the Day. Thought of the Day for this month has to do with your normal. So the reason I bring this up is because things that are normal to you shouldn't necessarily be normal. So an example would be maybe your normal is being in abusive relationships. Maybe your normal is getting really crappy sleep. Maybe your normal is drinking alcohol every day. And so you've grown accustomed to that. That feels normal to you, but it doesn't mean that it is normal or should be your normal and that you can have a better life. So, me getting treated for sleep apnea improved my life. Obviously, if you don't drink alcohol every day, that would be better. Um, and if you just because you're used to abusive relationships doesn't mean you should be in abusive relationships. And so, I know it's easier said than done. Um, but I think it's a good thought to keep in mind that your normal isn't necessarily normal and you can do better. Next segment is called If I Were President. So for this segment, I just want to bring up transparency. I've become a really big fan of transparency the older that I get. And I think that's one of the things that our government lacks is transparency. So I know that it's, within reason, right? So you're not going to be so transparent that you're putting out information you shouldn't put out and putting the general American public in in danger. So I wouldn't go that far, obviously. You'd want to use some discernment about how transparent you are about things. But I think that president and the government could be a lot more transparent than what they are with the American public, just to keep everybody on the same page. And I've learned for myself that when you're transparent with people, it builds trust, um, it builds respect, and it's just better for everybody involved. So I'm not saying being transparent about everything because that wouldn't make sense, but we could definitely be way more transparent than what we are. And so that's what I would do if I were president. Next segment is called TLRantz. TLRantz is a segment that I make about things that get under my skin, if you will. And this month is about Jackson. Stop licking your. So my dog hurt his leg, and he has a bandage, and he keeps on lick. Stop! Hey, don't lick that. Keeps on licking the bandage, and I have to constantly uh, watch that. So, anyways, TL Rants. So TL Rants is about teenage boys. I go to the gym 3 days a week. I'm actually going to the gym today. Um, and when I go there, I'm there for an hour, hour and a half, depending on if I'm in a rush. And unfortunately, there's tons of teenage boys and girls at the gym. Um, and the reason I say that's unfortunately is because those kids like just get on my nerves. I know that that makes you sound like an old man, but just like they just annoy me. Like they're standing around on their phones, flirting with girls, trying to act cool, like all the immaturity, like they try to do stuff they think is funny, but it's not funny. It's just like I just don't have time for it, man. When I go to the gym, I literally go to the gym, work directly to what I'm doing, and leave. I'm not there to pick up a girl or socialize. Like I'm there to do something, and you know. So I don't know. I guess I would like to say that I shouldn't be judging them because maybe I was the same way when I was their age, but I really wasn't. I mean, first of all, I've never been a gym person, but second of all, I really don't think if you put young Terry in that situation, he's doing the same thing. I was never the kind of guy that tried too hard or tried to be cool. I just was cool. Anyways, so moving on to brief football talk before we get into the interview. So the two teams I want to talk about is the Bandits and the Vipers. The Browns haven't really done much since my last podcast, so there's no reason to talk about them. But The Denver Bandits are a women's tackle football team that I coach here in Denver. And since I last talked to you, we had our first game. It was in Houston versus the Houston Mambas. Um, that game did not go well. So the final score was 10-0. Somebody said that we had two first downs on offense the whole game, which I'm not sure if that's true or not, but if it is, that's pretty bad. So I don't know. It's tough to talk about because first thing is you have to own it, right? So shout out to the Houston Mambas. They took care of business on their home field. Us starting our season away, taking a 16-hour trip to Houston, which I drove 16 hours, is kind of a rough way to start your season, in my opinion. I'm not sure how the WNFC has scheduled us an away game for the first game every year, but somehow that's happened. But no excuses. Shout out to Houston Mambas. They get full credit for beating us. They didn't cheat. Nothing shady happened. They just played better football. So the final score was 10-0. We played good defense, but our defense was on the field the whole game. So our offense had a lot of three and outs. And no matter how good your defense is, they just can't play the whole game. I mean, it's just not realistic. And so, um, combination of our defense playing the whole game, our special teams making some mistakes, and our offense not being able to move the ball consistently led to 10 points for them, 0 points for us, and a really rough start to our season. So this week, we have our second game, which is going to be our home opener against the Seattle Majestics. Uh, we're in week 3 of the season. We had a bye week last week. It's crazy to say this, but in week 3, we're already in a must-win situation. You got to think like realistically. There's only 6 games of regular season in our division, the Central Division. Basically, it's fair to assume Texas is probably going to be the number 1 seed, and then second team will get in the playoffs. Then there's 2 wild card teams. So I think realistically, after losing to Houston in week 1, that wild card spot is what we're shooting for. So, with that being said, if Texas is 1, in my opinion, um, Mississippi Panthers are number 2. They played with Texas in week 1. The score was 35-12. It's a pretty competitive game, even though the score, there was a margin there. And so, in my opinion, Mississippi's the second best team in the Central. So if that's the case, and I interviewed Camry Veal from the Mississippi Panthers, so you're going to hear a lot about that coming up. If they are number 2, then that only leaves 1 spot for us to get in the playoffs. Now, there's 5 teams in our division. So Texas is in my opinion, Mississippi is in. That leaves 3 teams. That's us, Houston, and Kansas City to get that last spot. Houston beat us, so they have the head-to-head victory over us, which isn't a great look for us. But the silver lining is, depending on how the rest of our season goes and how we look the rest of our season, you can make the argument that we're better than Houston. And if we were to play Houston again, we would win. So that's pretty much all we can do. We can't change past. We can't change week 1. We lost 10-0. And that's unfortunate, but it's the truth. And so all we can do is beat Seattle, finish out our season strong, and hopefully the powers that be consider us stronger than Houston at the end of the year. And that's our way to get in the playoffs. So, one game at a time. I'm feeling very anxious about our game on Saturday. Like I said, it's a must win, which really sucks to say that this early. Um, it'll be great. Scott McCarron is a good friend of mine. He's going to be over there coaching the defense. And so it'd be great to see him. And I expect it to be a tough game. Seattle has a big roster this year, a lot of returners that are good athletes. And so it won't be easy. We don't have any easy games this whole season. So I think it'll be a tough game. I think we can win, but it's not about what you can do. It's about what you do, which that sounds weird, but do. And so yeah, this Saturday home opener against Seattle. Hopefully we get our first win and we can build on that. Anxious to see how that goes. And so the next time you guys see me, the next podcast, a lot of things will have happened. So you guys will have like we're about to start a 4 game stretch where we play 4 games in a row, 4 consecutive weekends of home and away games, and so that's going to be a lot. You're going to hear about how Seattle went, Kansas City, Mississippi, Texas. Those are all huge games against very good opponents. And so next podcast will be packed with a lot more than just a sad story about Houston. And so stay tuned for that. Lastly, is talking about the Vipers, which is the semi-pro men's team here in Colorado that I coach. I'm actually going to their practice tonight. Um, Vipers are amazing. They have a huge roster. I don't know how big their roster is. It depends on who you ask. I've heard anything from 75 players to 110. So who knows? But I know that the head coach and OC and owner, Justin, wants to keep about 50 or 60 players. So if that's the case, he has to cut a lot of people um, and fast. And so I've been trying to help him with that, having conversations with him specifically about the quarterbacks. We have several good quarterbacks, which is the same thing with the Bandits, in my opinion. Um, Casey Cubis is going to be our full-time starter going forward, and I feel good about that. I like Casey. I think she's very capable, and she she split time with Kelly Washington in game one. I'm not really fan of the 2 quarterback system. So unfortunately, Kelly Washington is out for the year. She had a really bad injury in the second half, and she won't be with us on the field. But she's going to be helping us out off the field with, you know, getting quarterbacks together, making sure we know the playbook, making sure we're prepared. So I really appreciate her being a team player and helping us going forward. Back to the Vipers. So the Vipers have this huge roster, a whole bunch of talent, really good coaching staff, arguably the best coaching staff in Colorado for semi-pro men's. And so they have a lot of things going for them. Um, so it's been really cool to be a part of that. Last season, what I did was he wanted me to help out. So I waited until the Bandit season was over, which was super late because we went all the way to the game before the championship. And then after it was over, then I started going to that team was called the Thrashers last year. So I went to Thrashers games to help Justin out. But at that point, it's like players don't really know me. Only some of the coaches know me. So I'm like showing up as you know, Justin's confidant, but players and most coaches don't know me, and so it kind of put me in an awkward situation where uh, I was trying to help and trying to encourage and stuff, but people were looking at me like, "Who are you?" So this season, Justin wanted me to help out more and be more involved. So he appointed me as the assistant OC, which I really appreciate. And so I've been around since day one. And so I've been going to practices. I'm going to a practice tonight. It's a little bit tricky with, Bandits being my first priority because, I'm full time with Bandits. And so I don't have that much time to coach another team, but any time that I have is all Vipers, and so it's been really cool to watch them develop, see how Justin coaches, seeing like give him advice and he takes my advice. I mean, there's a lot to be said about somebody valuing your advice and taking it, and considering it whenever you speak. Um, that really makes you feel valued and makes you want to stick around. I don't know everything. I don't have all the answers, but I do have some answers. I've learned a lot of things in my 8 years of coaching. And so it's really cool to feel valued. I feel valued with both teams, the Bandits and the Vipers, and that hasn't always been the case. So with other teams, I should say. So it's cool. Can't wait. Vipers season starts beginning of May, so about a month after the women, and so that's exciting. Obviously, if there's a Bandit game, I'll be at that instead of the Vipers game. But whenever there isn't, they don't um, collide. I'll be at Vipers stuff, and I can't wait. It's going to be a good season. There's a lot of good teams in the league. Some of the coaches on the Bandits run another team, and we're going to be playing them, so it'll be fun. We'll see how it all shakes out. Moving on to the interview. My interview is with Camry Veal. You guys know him from previous podcasts. He is the owner of the Mississippi Panthers. So Mississippi Panthers, like I said, is one of the teams in our division, Central Division. They are awesome. They did some coaching switches and gained some players. One of our former players, Nat Nix, from last season, and so they look good. I mean, 35-12 against Texas sounds like you know decent margin, but that game was competitive. I mean, it was like 0-0, 7-7 for most of the first half, if I remember correctly. So if Mississippi can tweak some things and get use all their weapons and figure it out, it could be one of the contenders that catches Texas, and that's exciting. Um, if you know me, you know it's not about me. It's not necessarily about the Denver Bandits. It's about the league, and it's about parity. So Texas League Spartans have dominated the league ever since the league was created, and that's fine. They've earned that. They have good players, good coaching, and not it is what it is. But the sooner that we can beat Texas and show that that's possible, the better. And so, obviously, we're playing them the second to last game this season. We would love to be the first team to beat Texas, but one game at a time, baby. We're 0-1, and we have 0 points scored after playing Houston. And so we have a long way to go before we can even uh, think about beating a team like Texas. Because you got to think, in week 2, Houston played Texas, or bye week, and Texas beat them 41-7. So I'm not great at math, but think about the math. 41-7, maybe that's 10-0. So that means hypothetically, on paper, Texas would beat us around 51-0 or 51-7 if we were to play right now, or 2 weeks ago. So, but we have a lot of work to do to be able to be ready to play them in 4 or 5 weeks. And so, all we can do is try. So, yeah, we'll get into the interview. Here's the interview with Camry Veal of the Mississippi Panthers. It was an awesome interview. He's an awesome guy. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I do. So, without further ado, here is the interview. All right. I want to welcome back Camry Veal from the Mississippi Panthers. Camry, it's been a while. You were on we were just talking about this, the audio version of my
Right.
podcast. Now we're
Right.
upgraded, man. Your team's
Yeah.
better. My podcast is better. And so we come full circle, but we'll welcome back.
Thanks, man. Glad to be back. Everything's growing.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, the audio version was cool too, but it's always cool to do video. It's
Yeah,
always cool.
absolutely, man. So
Hmm.
we're gonna get into mostly football, but before we do
Okay.
that, it's been so long since I talked to you. Give me a refresher on what you do in your like normal life, right? Like when it's not Mississippi Panthers, like do you have a 9 to 5? What do you
Yeah,
do
I'm
with
a
your
pharmacy
time?
tech. So I sell drugs all day
Okay.
legally. And
Yeah.
also I'm one of the head coaches at a kickboxing and MMA gym. So I'm pretty much always doing some type of coaching,
Mm,
basically. Some type of coaching or something. But yeah, the pharmacy tech part is my quote unquote 9 to 5. Sometimes it
gotcha.
can go further than that. But yeah, you know.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know you were a pharmacy tech. That's new information. You
Yeah.
enjoy doing that, or it's just a job?
It's not bad. At first it was just a job, but I kind of like it now. It's easy, simple. You know, I don't know. I guess I like it. I say it's a 6 out of 10. I don't hate it. I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
hate it. I've been one
yeah.
for 4 years now, so I gotta like it a
Okay.
little bit. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what's up. Um, so a lot of things I was just talking to you about, a lot of things have happened since we last talked, and for
Right.
your team in particular, one of the reasons I was trying to get you in for a podcast interview is because this season
Mm-hmm.
is highly anticipated season for our sport. In the WNFC, there's just a lot of movement. You know what I'm saying?
All right.
A lot of really good athletes switching teams, and
Mm-hmm.
both of our teams honestly have been reaping benefits of some of those athletes joining our teams. And so I guess we'll start
Right.
off with just shout out to us, Camry. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
we're doing
Shout out
something
to
right.
us. We've been working hard, man. I'm very happy for the Denver team. Denver, Marcel, you guys, I like y'all a lot, man. John, y'all definitely one of the coolest ownership groups in the league. So, I'm glad
Yeah,
y'all are growing. We're trying to keep up too. So it's all awesome. Like you said, it's a very highly anticipated season. I like the moves and stuff that were happening.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the way my brain works is I have to go in order. So
Right.
let's start with touching, like just doing a recap of last season and how
Mm-hmm.
last season went. Um, and then transitioning into this season.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's some big names that you guys acquired
Mm-hmm.
for your team, and that's awesome. But
Right.
if I remember correctly, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Last season, you guys had a decent season, but you barely missed the playoffs last season, right?
Yeah, 3-3. We barely missed.
And
It was, yeah. Go ahead.
you no, you're good. You barely lost to Kansas City at home, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And that was kind of like the game. It was glooming. Like that was
Yeah,
like the game.
Kansas City. The game that was glooming was the Atlanta game because
Okay,
Kansas City, we could have and should have won that game, in my opinion. It was just our offense couldn't get moving for some reason. And Atlanta was really that game that we focused the most on, even in the preseason, because we knew that game would be serious regardless. And by holding them to the scoring margin that they did, and actually being the first team to score on them that season, we felt like we had a chance to win, but we just didn't pull it out. Like I say, the season was okay. It wasn't as bad as, of course, most people probably remember it. My team hated it, of course. Obviously, they're competitors. But,
yeah,
all in all, it's okay. 500 is all right. Missing the
yeah,
playoff, but everything happens for a reason.
that's true.
Mm,
I was just talking about this with some of the people with the Bandits, and
mm,
I was telling them this isn't about me or the Bandits, but it's applicable to what you just said. So the Bandits went 6-0 last year. They made it all the way
mm,
into the Western Championship, lost to Utah in overtime. So almost made
mm,
it to the championship last year. And then this season, we had some players transfer. We had 3 players go to Kansas City. A quarterback went to Houston. You guys have
mm.
Natalie Nix because she's in the
Yeah,
military.
yeah.
And so but that's 5 athletes right there that are playing for other teams that were starters for us, right?
Yeah,
And so that's going to naturally happen every year. You're going to have turnover. You're going to have coaching
right.
turnover, player turnover. That's the nature of the beast. Well,
Mm-hmm.
what I was saying is there's so much pressure, or at least we feel this way. There's so much pressure on us to be successful because you got to think like if we had our coming out season last year where we went 6-0 and we did
Mm-hmm.
play great and we went almost to the championship and all this, there's some people that they're going to be like critics and say that was a fluke.
Right,
They
right, right,
weren't
right.
good, and all the naysayers, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then the pressure's on you to either live up to that or at least don't fall back too much, right? Like keep the standard where it's at. And
Right.
so I was telling John, the owner, like, there's so much pressure on us, man, because we can't really even afford, I mean, a 3-3 season or a losing season.
Yeah.
That would be devastating to us because if that happens, now all those people that criticized us are right.
Right. Well, right.
That
Exactly. Right.
we
Mm-hmm.
weren't that good, even though I don't really think that's fair because when you're going from season to season, there is turnover with coaches, there is turnover with players, so no two teams are the same. So to make,
Absolutely.
you know what I'm saying, to
Mm-hmm.
compare 2 teams, it's not really fair.
Right.
Um,
LA
yeah, so
Rams. I mean, look at the LA Rams. They went from winning
yeah,
the Super Bowl to terrible.
that's
They
true.
lost everybody.
Yeah,
So it's the same thing, man. It's the
yeah.
same thing. I see it.
So I feel a lot of pressure on us to basically not shit the bed as far as this
Mm-hmm.
season. Obviously, starting off losing to Houston's not a great start, um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's in the past. You can't change the past.
Right.
All you can do is just focus on the next opponent. So we're trying to obviously beat Seattle, get our first win, and go from
Mm-hmm.
there. So that's where we're at. But um, would you say that could you share that concern that we do as far as like um, not having
Um.
fall off season or like having a bad season where you lose recruits and less people want to come to
Mhm.
your team, stuff like that?
I think we're in a peculiar position because last season, for
Do
some
tell.
reason, made our team more appealing. Why I don't know, but it was so many people that contacted us last season. But for
Okay.
me personally,
Yeah.
from the fan perspective, from the new player perspective, we'll be fine if we have another season like last season. But from the internal workings, the ownership groups, with the roster that we've accumulated and brought in, it's no possible way we can justify not having a good season. With the pieces that we picked up and the pieces that we negotiated and got, it's impossible for me to be able to swallow that pill and be like, oh, we had some good things. This is one of those teams where we're planning to win and win now, or make at least a championship run. That's the only goal that we have. And like I say, I believe the pressure is more so on us. I don't really see the fans and things really speaking that much about it. I just think the pressure is on us mainly. The pressure is more so on the team than ourselves to execute what's expected, especially after that first game with Texas. It, even though we lost, it was very, very, very close. It was a good game. It was one of those games that they just took advantage of the mistakes and we didn't, pretty much. And by having all of these rookies and new players, I saw that game as a scrimmage. It was a scrimmage for us. Unfortunately, it just counts as a record, because the reason why I see it as a scrimmage, where these people haven't played together, they don't know each other's timing yet. They don't know this. They don't know this. So even though we had all those pieces, they still got a jail. So I see this season as an interesting one, because it's definitely pressure on me in my life personally. But that's just the pressure I'm putting on the team. I don't think it's necessarily league wide though. Same way with Denver. I really don't feel it'll be justified for Denver to get a lot of flack for having a season that's not 6-0. 6-0 is not easy.
No.
I don't care what league you play in, what team you play with, 6-0 is not easy, No. So it was a lot of those games to where the people that y'all played could have easily won, but something happens. Being 6-0 takes a lot of skill. And like you said, y'all did lose a lot of y'all starters. That's something else that people have to factor into it. So I don't think y'all have a lot of pressure. Me personally, I wouldn't think that would be justified if somebody said that Denver has to do this. I would think that's kind of foolish.
Well, it is foolish, but it's like, perception is everything, right? So if people perceive Denver as a team that went 6-0, that it's on the up and coming, and they're one of the teams that can catch Texas eventually and give Texas their first loss and finally have parity in this league, where this isn't winning every championship. If that was the trajectory, and then you come back the next season and you go 500, I don't know what our record's going to be, but if you go 500 or God forbid have a losing record, I don't know, maybe I'm being a worrywart, but I just think worst case scenario, right? I think of well, okay, if you are a losing team, I mean, our schedule's stacked. You know what I mean? Houston's not easy. You guys aren't easy. Texas never loses. Utah's good. I mean, Seattle's better than they were last year. That's our whole schedule. We have no easy games.
Y'all have a good, y'all got one of them schedules that's every game matters, and it's, I think, me personally, I think the Central just has the harder matchups. When I looked at the Central, I just think Central, the teams, period, just for some reason, it just seems like we have the harder games. Everybody else, I see a hard game here or there, but typically it's just like, all right, it's either even or easy. That's just my personal opinion. And but Central, I don't really see any matchups that just say, oh, this is going to be easy. That's going to be easy. All of them are, this is going to be a game. So you got to play it, So, and like you said, Texas is Texas. But even with that, when we played them, we didn't have that mystique that they're Texas. We just saw them as a football team. And it's because of all the rebuilding we did. I'm positive that we could give Texas a loss. It's just we had to get some stuff right. That loss was great for us. Heads weren't down. We walked off the field as if we just won the game, because we understood what's needed now. We had to see it first. We had to see these pieces work together. And now since we see it and we tweaked it a little bit, we're a lot different these next coming weeks.
That's a great mindset, man. And I can tell that that's true because, obviously I'm Facebook friends with Natalie Nix and,
Right.
Rashawn Gore and other Panthers players. And you can just tell it just by their social
Mm-hmm.
media. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, well, thing about female players, I don't know if it's like this with men. Thing about female players is they're going to keep it a buck,
Yep.
good or bad. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So like,
Yep.
like you
Yep.
remember when Regina Jackson like went off and she was talking
Yep.
about how she's done and she's going to be a free agent,
Mm-hmm.
all that. That was in the
Yep.
bad side. But then the
Mm-hmm.
good side is Rashawn Gore. One of the first things she posted after the Texas game, hey, we're just getting started.
Right.
Like
Yep.
back to work. We're not
Yep.
phased. Like
Yep.
that's exactly the mindset you want. When other teams lose, and I just noticed this last night,
Mm-hmm.
they lose and then it's crickets,
It's crickets. Yep.
right?
That's quiet. Yep.
So they have all
Yep.
this like all this marketing going out. You know what I mean? Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
game day, yada yada yada, and then they lose and then nothing. Nobody's
Nothing.
saying no, like, and so I wonder about that. Like, and I mean, I'm not trying to kiss your ass, but it's a shout out to
Mm-mm.
your guys' culture
Right.
because you guys built a culture in that you losing a game on the scoreboard in Texas
Mm-hmm.
wasn't your end all be all.
Right.
All it did was just let you know what you need to work on and retool.
Right.
And
Right.
if anything, it just made you hungrier. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like
Yeah. It's
that's what
just
it's
a
supposed to
loss,
do.
man. And I appreciate it. It's just we had to get it in these girls' minds, in these women's mind, that it's just one game.
Yeah.
It's not the end of your life. It's nothing like that. And I think that this new coaching staff that I brought in, it was really my original coaching staff. I brought my original head coach back, and he's the guy that started the team with me, Steven Jackson. And that's why the offense looked kind of sort of what you're used to seeing our offense look like. And
Yeah.
I just feel like last year, we just were trying to be something that's really against our culture. Our culture is fun, always positive, lighthearted, kind of that Southern hospitality mindset. It's nothing is that serious. Nothing's
Yeah.
that serious but family, and that's about it. So we treat each other as a family. Nobody really got hurt. We didn't lose any players. Everybody, got out of there healthy and safe, and that's all we cared about. So now we can go have fun, put on a show for the next home game. That's the only thing we really cared about. We didn't. This isn't war. We had to remind the girls that we play football. It's a game at the end of the day. It's no different from checkers, chess, bowling, whatever. You're playing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, once the horn blows, you get to go home to your family and friends. So just appreciate the game while you can. And you can just see it change and everything about the team. And I love it.
That's
Keeping it
great to hear.
light. Mm-hmm.
So we want to dive into,
Let's
like I
dive.
told you, I want to, like from year to year, there's a turnover. You have coaching
Right.
turnover, player turnover. It's always going to be the case. So I
Right.
want to go over all that with you
Mm-hmm.
because your team has been transformed to a degree, in a
Mm-hmm.
good way, it seems like,
Right.
to the season. But
Mm-hmm.
where would you want to start? Do you want to start with the coaching staff, with the
Mm-hmm.
players? It's your
we
world.
we can start with the coaching staff. So the first thing, like I
Yeah.
said, my last head coach, Anthony Dunn, good guy, good coach, but his mindset was more so he took football so serious. It was such a huge part of his life that he takes it
Yeah.
so serious. And it was really against what this team was founded on. And we tried it, we gave it a shot. It didn't work out for us. There's no ill will towards him. It's nothing like that. He really just retired from coaching. And that
Yeah.
was pretty much it. So when we brought Steve back, we wanted to make sure the first step was to reestablish our culture. Screw the players, we can get players. But the culture is the main thing that we had to regain. So I wouldn't really say we had a turnover on coaches because we really kind of sort of still have all the same coaches, except maybe two or three different ones. Even player turnover, other than my Australians who just couldn't financially come back,
Yeah.
we really didn't lose anybody. We had some players retire, maybe one or two, maybe, but we
Yeah.
didn't lose anybody to other teams. We never really do, except for one situation to where LaShonda Griffin went to Alabama, but now obviously she's back in Mississippi. So it's like we really didn't lose anybody, and we didn't expect to get what we got. I would be lying if I said we were expecting to build what we built because we didn't. Two, honestly, very, very good things happened for us. a team in the Gulf Coast that played for the WFA, the Monarchy, they folded. So
Yeah.
they're all pros wanted to play in the WNFC anyway, so they came to us. That was the first bit of news. So that increased our roster kind of by tenfold automatically. Then the Alabama situation happened.
Right.
Well, those players came over, and that obviously boosted it out the roof because we picked up really their best names, honestly. So, and I was happy about that, man. I was just like, look, and they came in consummate professionals. They just came in ready to work. Nobody treated them like outcasts. We made sure our team knew that, hey, they're our family now. All of the old, because, they were kind of a rival for us. All of that's dead.
Yeah.
We don't care about that anymore. We're just here to win, play football, win a championship. So this is the first year I can say we really have zero turnover. We haven't lost any girl to injury. We got all of our old injured players back, new players from new teams. So it seemed like all the pieces are falling into place, which is a good thing, but we don't want to get cocky or see it as an automatic win because it's not. It's not an automatic win. We still got a lot of fixing to do.
Yeah, I
It's
think
just
you're right. From my perspective, you guys already had a good roster. Then you just added to that roster, which is what you want to do.
right.
That's how you catch Texas. You
Yeah.
add you add a whole bunch of talent to a good roster already,
Right.
and that's how you're able to square up with Texas and not feel like you have a disadvantage. I would say I agree with what you're saying. The only thing I would disagree with is Kelly Smith.
Yeah, I
Is,
wish. Yeah.
dude, she's fucking amazing. So
Forgot
like,
about Kelly. Yeah.
no, there's no disrespect to your running backs, but there's one Kelly Smith. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Kelly is just Kelly, man. Kelly, Red,
yeah,
all of those girls, like those were girls obviously that we wanted to come over as well, but they're loyal to their team. We get it.
yeah, of course.
And I don't think the other girls are unloyal to their team. It was just they did what was best for them, and that's cool. Like I said, we don't have really any ill will towards Alabama. It's just if y'all wanted to come, we opened the door, we invited them, they came. Yeah. But of course, we were trying hard to get Kelly. That was one of those situations. Kelly, man, she's just Kelly. She's like the Derrick Henry of women's football because once she gets the momentum, it's almost 6 every play.
Yeah. So that's the only thing I would disagree with because she's so dynamic that if you add her to your offense is already very good.
Right.
You have Rashawn Gore, who's the best dual threat quarterback in the league, in my opinion. Good passer, good rusher. She took off on Texas for some key first downs.
Right.
And a lot of the quarterbacks can't do that. Then you have some good receivers. Rashida Young, there's obviously Regina Jackson. So several good receivers, and then your offensive line isn't bad. And then you have some ballers on defense too. So I think the only thing that you would add to that would be Kelly Smith. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Realistically.
Yeah, a stout running back. Yeah. And our running backs, it's a weird situation with our running backs that I always tell people. Our star running back got hurt. She broke her femur in half the first season. So she has been dealing with mainly the mental hurdle of getting back out there, English Bennett. Getting back out there because she was all pro the first year, but she broke her leg in half against Alabama, the last game of the season before the playoffs. And that hurt us bad. So Candace Davis kind of sort of came in, but Candace is more of she's like a gadget player. She's still trying to, she's still learning. This is just her second year in football, period, ever picking up a football. So our running back situation is one of those situations to where we have good running backs. They can pretty much do it all. We just got to understand how to put them in the puzzle a little bit better. And I think once we do that, our running game will open up a lot. Okay. Because in the plays that we got drawn up, we didn't really run the ball against Texas. My offensive coordinator purposely really didn't run the ball, but we have some running plays that I think will do some damage. Yeah. I really do. Mm-hmm. And now with the addition of Charnay Jenkins, we got some options in the backfield.
Mm. So why didn't you guys run against Texas, or is that top secret information?
I don't want to say it.
Okay. That's too deep. All right. That's fine.
It was a game plan thing. I'll go that far because it's some stuff that we see, It's just some stuff that we see. Yeah.
Yeah. I understand. Okay. So as far as the makeup of your team, Obviously getting Rashawn Gore is a big deal. She's a huge name in the sport.
Right.
She played for Texas, so that's kind of
Hmm.
interesting. So she
Right.
knows, she knows how Texas
Yep.
operates. She probably
Yep.
knows some of their playbook or maybe all their playbook. So she
Hmm.
has a unique insight into playing a team like Texas.
Hmm.
But then also you have Chardonnay Jenkins, some of the best players for Alabama. Foe, Griffin,
Yep.
Mary
Mary
Woodard.
Water.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mary Woodard's a monster.
Hmm.
Obviously, Rashida Young is one of the best
Hmm.
receivers in the league when she's healthy.
Yep.
So, I mean, talk about bolstering a lineup, man. So I was very interested, and it was funny because I think I messaged you in the preseason, if you
Hmm.
remember this. I messaged you on Facebook, and I'm like, I
Hmm.
saw you got. I know you had Rashawn Gore, and obviously you have RJ. I'm like,
Hmm.
how are they going to use that? Like,
Right.
who's going to play
Right.
quarterback? Who's going to like?
Yeah. Hmm.
If it's Rashawn, how are you going to use RJ? Is she going to be running back? Is she going to be a
Hmm.
wildcat? Is she going to be a receiver? You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I was so curious, man, because I'm a fan of the sport. And
Hmm.
I think your answer to me in Messenger was like in ways, LOL.
Yeah. We
And
got
so
so many. I I'm gonna be real with you, man. It's so much that we can do with this roster. Even if you look at Natalie Nix,
yeah,
Natalie went off against Texas. She had a great
yeah,
game.
yeah,
Natalie's just one of those players that we picked up, obviously from Denver,
mhm,
and it's just we have so many options that offense is just wide open. Anybody can almost run any position on this offense, and it's just we've accumulated so much talent at the offense position to where, again, in ways is the best way I can answer that question.
yeah,
But that would be a talk for my offensive coordinator. He can answer that more in
yeah,
detail. But yeah, man, we got some stuff, and I'm excited for Saturday against Washington. Do y'all have a game this week?
yeah. We play our home opener against Seattle.
Yeah, it's our home opener against Washington.
Okay, that should be
Yeah,
a good game. They had
should be a good game. Yeah.
they won 31-0 in week one, so
Mm-hmm.
I mean they're obviously not that bad.
Right.
But
Heavy run
also,
game. They're big up front.
yeah,
There's some
yeah.
ballers.
Bauer's good, so
Mm-hmm.
that'll be interesting to see if you can corral her.
Right. Right.
So, your first hot seat question, Cam, is
Okay.
I'm a huge fan of Mary Woodard. Um, she was like an all-pro DB and receiver for the
Right.
Fire. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Right.
really good safety, really good receiver, caught
Right.
a whole bunch of corner routes and fades and just
Mm-hmm.
was awesome. So then I knew that she was on your team because I knew the girls you signed.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, I was watching some of the Mississippi Texas game because there was three games that I had my eye on. Obviously, Denver versus Houston, and then
Mm-hmm.
your game, and then Utah versus San Diego. Those are the three teams. Those are the three games I was really
Right.
locked in. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Uh-huh.
when I was watching your game, I was like, well, damn,
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi has RJ at receiver,
Mm-hmm.
Natalie Nix at receiver, which
Mm-hmm.
I already knew Nat could play receiver based on how she played for us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Rashida Young at receiver, who's one of the best
Mm-hmm.
receivers. And then as if that wasn't enough, Mary
Mm-hmm.
Woodard's one of the best receivers. But then I
Mm-hmm.
saw like I didn't see Mary Woodard play much, if
Mm-hmm.
at all. I saw her like take pictures afterwards. She was wearing number 12. And
Mm-hmm.
so I messaged Foe and I'm like, hey, what's up? Like, is Mary not playing or is she injured or what's going on? She's like, well, she's playing defense, but she's still learning the playbook. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's why, she didn't play much. And I'm like,
Right.
oh, that makes sense. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not really a question because the answer is obvious. Like, you have a good
Mm-hmm.
enough roster, you don't have to play people both ways. And so
Mm-hmm.
you guys basically said like she'd be most valuable to us as a DB. And so
Mm-hmm.
whenever she's ready, playbook wise, then she'll probably
Right.
play.
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you is, since I was
Mm-hmm.
so impressed with her as a receiver,
Mm-hmm.
I know you guys are already rich with having RJ and Nat and Rashida,
Mm-hmm.
but would you say it's more of like the player I didn't name? Let's say if you're in a four receiver set, I
Yeah.
saw a girl make a really nice catch on the left sideline.
Yeah, that's
You know,
Alyssa McCarron.
yeah. Let's say
Yeah.
Alyssa McCarron right now, she's that fourth receiver that we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying anything about. I don't know Alyssa McCarron. Maybe she's the
Right.
shit. You know what I mean? She had made a great catch. She obviously isn't bad.
Yeah.
So maybe it's more about her being there from day one and knowing the playbook,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe your coaching staff just thinks Mary's a better DB than a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
But how would you answer that as far as the bringing her on and then
Mm-hmm.
figuring out where she's going to help the team most? And
Right.
how would you argue the counterpoint of like, well, she's an awesome receiver, so how do you
Yeah.
not play her
So
there?
so our receiver personnel is just deep. It's one of those
Yeah,
situations to where, yeah, we have Rashida, RJ, and Nat. But like I said, people like Alyssa McCarron, we still have Kanisha Sheriff, who's dangerous. We Alana Alexander, who was one of our big threat receivers our first year. She just got hurt, set out, became a referee, did some football, and now she's back playing wide receiver for us. We got a girl, Brittany Bassett, also a good deep threat. She's pretty tall, pretty big. So we've got so much receiver options. And like you said, Mary came in late.
yeah,
So what we really wanted to do was plug her in somewhere to where she could get faster. Our offense is a little bit more difficult than our defense to get. So she's
that's
still
true.
trying to learn some stuff. But even when we look at Mary on film, she was so more, in my opinion, she was much more impactful on the defensive side of the ball.
Mm.
We don't necessarily care about players going both ways if they're that good, but we just have so much that we don't need players to go both ways.
Right, right,
But
right.
to where we do like Mary is especially on things to where she can get out in the open and get free, like kickoff return, punt return, things
Yeah,
like that. Because she's just an athlete. She can play wherever you put her. And that's the
yeah,
beautiful thing. And the mindset that she has is just like, wherever you need me, coach, I'll play, which is even better for us. So,
yeah,
like I said, they're consummate professionals. Both of them, all of them have been used to having to play both ways with the roster size that they had in Alabama. They're still trying to get used to, wait, I don't go in on this
I
one.
don't know.
No, come
Yeah,
over
just
here.
chill out.
You know,
Yeah, just,
all of them are like, wait, do I play now? No, you don't
yeah,
play
yeah,
now. You get to
yeah,
take a break. That's a beautiful thing about playing for a team with a deep roster. And it's really just roster. It has nothing really to do with if she's not as good as a receiver, because she's one of those players. She can play wherever. We could put RJ at safety, and RJ would probably be a top safety in the league. But
yeah,
RJ, we play him where we need him.
yeah.
That's
That
how
makes
we do it
sense.
here in Mississippi. And we lost some players because of, I want to play both ways. I want to do this. I don't do this. They don't understand the picture. They don't understand what the purpose is. The purpose is to try to win. We don't need you to play everything and tire yourself out, gas yourself out, increase your chance of injury. Why would we do that for one of our better players? That just makes no sense. So
Gotcha.
yeah.
Fair enough. That's a very fair answer. I appreciate you answering that.
No
Um,
problem.
so we talked privately about the Alabama Fire leaving the WNFC, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
trying to make you feel uncomfortable, with what you want to say publicly. But what
Mm-hmm.
would you be willing to say publicly about kind of what led up to that, or how that happened, or how you feel
Mm-hmm.
about that team leaving? I mean, they were one of your rivals, so obviously that makes your life
Right.
a little bit easier. But
Mm-hmm.
now that it's over, like how do you feel in looking back?
It's a double-edged sword. I like it because I picked up all the players. I
Yeah,
like that, except Kelly and a couple more. I like it on that regard, just to be completely honest. But
yeah,
on the other end, I want to see the league get bigger, not smaller. I want to see
yeah,
it grow. Alabama was one of those teams that people actually tuned in to watch.
yeah, yeah,
And viewership is important. Viewership is important. That's how we're all going to get to that goal that we're trying to get to. So it's a double-edged sword for me. Even though they were quote unquote rivals, I didn't want
yeah,
them to leave. I actually enjoyed them being there. Actually, we enjoyed playing them. We enjoyed having them on our schedule. That was one of those games we woke up for, and
yeah,
every time. So, but like I say, it's a double-edged sword because again, it did nothing but help me when they left in two ways. I didn't really have to play them. I get to have their players play for me. So I'm not really sure what happened with the inner workings of why they stopped. There's a lot of he say, she says, a lot of this and that, of course.
yeah,
The players have never brought it up. I've never brought it up to the players. That has nothing to do with me. You're a Panther now. That's all they want to talk about is being a Panther. We've never slighted them. They've never slighted their old teammates. Of course, some people are going to be in their feelings in the Alabama side about what happened. Cool, whatever. We don't really pay attention to social media anymore. That was one of our downfalls as well. People wanted to live on social media on this team, and it's not the place to do it.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. So, yeah,
yeah.
like I said, I ain't really have any. It sucks. Like I said, I wanted them to stay, but it helped me out at the same time. So it is what it is, honestly.
Mm. Gotcha. That's fair. So what is your perspective of the WNFC this season? Like, I know obviously you're dialed into your team.
Mm-hmm.
You know all the inner workings as far as your coaching staff and the players
Mm-hmm.
and where you're at, where you need to be, et cetera, et cetera. But how dialed in to the whole league are you? Like when it comes to all 16 teams,
Mm-hmm.
who was bad last year, who was good last year, who,
Mm-hmm.
Denver got Grace Cooper. Like,
You're right.
how much are you plugged into what's going on?
I try to pay attention as much as I can, man. I try to
Okay.
pay it like I'm actually a fan of the league, so I try to pay attention to see who went where, who got traded, or
Yeah.
whatever traded, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it, who moved, who did this, who's not playing, who's retiring. I try to stay plugged into as much as I can. Like for example, the Philly versus KC game yesterday. I watched that and I was like, Philly could have won that game. It probably
Yeah.
should have won that game.
Eight to
At
six,
least
right?
three, yeah, 8-6. They lost it by 2 points. And I was just looking, I was like, so, it's a lot of things that I see changing in the league. There's a lot of kind of swinging and adjustments of power that I see happening. But of course, you got those same teams kind of in rotation, passing the ball around about who's this and who's that. But I really do think, again, it's some teams that were quote unquote bad last year, or just bad last year, not quote unquote, who are
Mhm.
who are a little better this year. Like Houston is obviously better. I just need Houston. I just really want Houston to keep it up. Going back, I guess, to what you say about the quiet. When the marketing and stuff is great, pre-games and wins, you just have to keep that up because it's so easy for that old spirit to sneak back in, that old mindset of, oh, we're not gonna win. It's still some players that still were here with the Houston Heat who probably still have some of those old scars. So hopefully they've dug that out of that organization. But yeah, man, which team was that? Got somebody that I really wanted to see besides y'all. Philly, I think it was Philly, is that quarterback Philly has. I think she's German or she's from somewhere, but she is a beast.
Is she?
I can't, yeah, she's a beast. You got to watch that game. If you haven't seen that game,
I
that
haven't seen
quarterback
it.
is a beast. She's
Okay.
very good. That's who it is. Sarika Shillingsworth left Denver and went to Philly.
Sarika?
Because,
Yeah.
yep, Sarika. I wanted Sarika to play for me when we did that big haul of Australians last year, but she decided to go to you all, which was fine. And when she went to Philly, I was like, well, that should help. She was pretty good. So they looked good. Like I say, man, Philly has something. They really do. They just gotta, I don't know, they just gotta find a way to win. So, like I said, there's a lot of moving pieces that I pay attention to in the league that I see. I see what's the girl's name? She came from Utah, I want to say. Now she plays for you all. Then y'all just pick up somebody.
From Utah, Brianna Griggs.
Yeah, Brianna Griggs. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big pickup. I like Brianna. I like
Yeah.
Brianna a lot. Yeah. And y'all guys, man, look, y'all made 2 defensive plays against Houston. I was like, Jesus. London hit one girl, and number 40, I want to say, another one of y'all all pros, the linebacker.
Amber
Yeah.
Craft. She's a beast.
Jesus. They can play football.
Yeah.
Those girls are good. I watched that whole game, and I was like, man, those girls are good. So, yeah, like I say, I'm pretty dialed into everything. I try to watch as many games as I can. Now, since they got the little WNFC score, it's kind of easier because they got like 3 or 4 games up at one time on the Saturday Night Lights feed. So it's much easier. Like yesterday, I watched all of them at the same time with no problem. So that was cool.
So let me ask you this. Based on that answer you just gave me, if you were to look over all the teams in the WNFC, what players stick out to you on certain teams? Like you just said, Philadelphia's quarterback and Sarika stick out to you for Philadelphia, right? On Denver, Amber Craft and Brianna Griggs stick out to you, right?
In
So
London, always. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you go through the other teams, who else comes to mind?
The only team where I really don't, it's a couple teams where I really just don't, I guess, know a lot of their players. San Diego, obviously, you got AG, Ninja, people like that.
Yeah.
So I always like San Diego coming out of the Pacific because of those people. Utah is different because they changed coaching staffs. I'm more so interested in their coaching staff. not the players this year, to see if they're going to do the kind of sort of what they've always done. And we saw that they do still kind of run those triple options and stuff like that. So I was more so looking at that. When it comes to Houston, obviously D. Scott, running back. I like to see what Torrey will do at quarterback. So that's interesting. What other teams am I missing? Kansas City, it's looking like they got a new quarterback. She's kind of big.
The big girl, yeah.
She's got a big number 14. So I'm interested in watching her. I saw that pickup that they made in the offseason. And they also got I can't think of the girl's name. I believe she's Samoan. And she came from, was it Utah? I think she came from Utah or somewhere. She plays for Kansas City this year. And she's doing good.
She's a lineman?
Yeah, she's a D lineman.
Okay.
She's a D lineman. And she's doing pretty good from what I saw in that first game. Florida, it looked like Angie is just on drugs this year. Number 8. Dude. Jesus Christ.
Dude, I watched the highlight film. She was everywhere, bro. Like
she looked like she took that LT special on the sideline because she was going crazy. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Cap.
Jesus Christ. Obviously, Washington has that running back. I keep forgetting the name.
Ballard.
She's doing it. She's amazing. So we really got to, contain her Saturday. I already told you Philly. Who else? Who else am I missing? I'm missing a lot, I know.
Well, Tennessee's a new team.
Tennessee has some players. Tennessee actually has one of my old players. One of my best DBs started dating, went to Tennessee. And unfortunately, I think she got hurt. So I'm not sure what the status is on her. I see she didn't play yesterday. And but I do like that quarterback, Tessa.
She's one of the owners.
She's one of the owners, And we met up personally, and she knows football. She knows it a lot. So she's a great quarterback mind. So those were the two players that I were mainly interested in on Tennessee. Obviously, to see how Starry did and to see how Tessa did. I think they're figuring it out more and more and more. I think their first game was a wake-up call. Like, this is a better league. You have to actually practice better. You can't just wake up. Atlanta's Atlanta. Yeah. They've got the same pieces returning for the most part. They're going to be Atlanta regardless. Texas is Texas. You pretty much know who to look for. So, yeah.
What players do you enjoy watching on Atlanta and Texas the most?
The most for Atlanta, Al-Nissa Thomas is my favorite on Atlanta. I like Al-Nissa. Yeah, I like how she plays, that energy at linebacker. Texas, Griswold, I got a couple. Olivia Griswold, Satterwhite. I like this new running back they got, Turbo Thomas. She's very dangerous. Yeah, and of course Liz. Everybody likes Liz, I think, though. But Turbo is pretty quick. Turbo Thomas is she's pretty fast. We saw that firsthand. We were like, Jesus. On that first kickoff return, it got bad quick. So we were like, Jesus, she was quick. So but I like, those are the ones.
It's interesting to hear, like, you know more players than I do. Like, I know the teams pretty well, but when it comes to actual individual players, sounds like you know a few of them better than I do. So props to you for knowing that, because
I try. Like I say, man, I try to follow it as much as I can because honestly, we got to play them, so I got to know who to stop. So that's one way to look at it. So the ones worth knowing, and I hate to say it like that, but the ones worth knowing, worth scouting and stopping, those are the ones that come to my mind the most.
Yeah, that's fair. You said you had like 3 coaching changes. What were those besides, obviously, was it Steven Jackson? Is that his name?
Yeah. So we changed the important ones. We changed defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, and head coach.
Okay, so the biggest 3.
Yeah, the big ones. But our head coach was our offensive coordinator last year. So technically we only changed 2 jobs. And our defensive coordinator, Joe Chimenti, he moved back to New York. And he's supposed to be moving to Tampa. And I think he's in the works. Well, I know he's in the works of starting a Tampa team based in the WNFC. So that should be fun. And him and OJ have been in talks about it, and it looked like it's going pretty well. And so hopefully we hear something about that soon. But so that was the changes that we made. We kind of just went back to what we did that first season. We went 0-2. But even with that 0-2 start, we didn't really go by the offense that Steve runs. We were trying a different type of offense. And, you know, this team was really predicated around spreading people out, getting the ball in the air, moving it, you know, running it, making the extension of the run game, the pass game. I like to compare our offense to the closest team I can think about is like Kansas City. They don't really run the ball, but they will run the ball, use screens and stuff to kind of be an extension of the run game. So that's the closest comparison that I can make right now.
Mm.
So not too many coaches changes at the positions, just more so the people who call the shots.
Yeah, so our the Denver Bandits, we have the same head coach, obviously Marcel. This might be his last year coaching, and
Oh,
then DC is the same, which that makes sense because our defense was amazing last year.
yeah.
But we got a new offensive coordinator, and
Mm-hmm.
that's been interesting because his name is Rashad Ray. He's a very
Mm-hmm.
highly touted coach in Colorado in the semi-pro men's game. So in
Mm-hmm.
the semi-pro men's game, he's had a ton of success. He's very well, very well respected by a lot of the
Mm-hmm.
players in the area. But as you know, the women's game is different.
Yeah.
So, I mean, having a nice resume and doing well with men is
Mm-hmm.
cool, but
Yeah.
that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to women's. So, obviously, our first game was rough.
Mm-hmm.
We lost 10-0. I think we might have had like 2 first downs the whole game. Um, so that's
Mm-hmm.
obviously a rough place to go from. So obviously, I'm hoping that we can figure stuff out, score points, and because pretty much what it comes down to is our defense is still very good.
Yeah.
The problem is if your offense isn't meeting your defense halfway, right? If you're
Right.
getting the ball in offense and you're going 3 and out all game, three and
Yeah.
out, three
Quick
and out,
too.
3 and out,
Quick too. Yeah.
quick. Your defense just got off the field. They haven't even caught their breath yet. They're coming back on the field. If your defense plays the whole game like that, by the second half, they're all gassed. So
Yep.
now you have people dropping interceptions. Now you have people they can't run what Deet's got when she's running a corner route or whatever. I mean, just a
Yeah.
war of
That's
attrition.
what, you know, trust me. That was the story of our life last year. Our
Yeah.
defense was just ridiculous, especially in the run game. I think when I looked at the stats last year, we didn't give up 200 total yards rushing for the season. So you didn't move the ball on the ground against us last year. But we'll come off the field and like 20 seconds later, I'm like, defense, get back on the field.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those situations to where we didn't have enough help on the offensive side to bail our defense out. And like you said, fatigue doesn't care how good you are, how much you
Yeah.
know. Once fatigue kicks in, it's a wrap. If that
Yeah.
person across from you is fresher, they might not be the better player, but if they're in better shape or have more opportunities of rest, especially on defense where it's 90% reaction, you know,
Yeah.
once you're tired, your reaction time slows, everything slows, your ability to hit harder, jump higher, play through the hands. That fatigue just kills you.
Mm. That's one of the hardest things to swallow because
Mm-hmm.
knowing that our defense is that good and knowing that our offense put them in a bad situation where they couldn't catch their breath and they had to play the whole
Mm-hmm.
game like isn't fair to them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
your offense has to help them out to a degree. I'm not saying you have to score 40 points or
Mm-hmm.
score 60 like Atlanta, but you have to move the ball. You know what I mean? You have to
Right.
have sustained drives where at least you're running it at midfield and keeping field position. So now
Exactly.
their offense has to go the whole
Or at
field.
least put together a long drive. At least put
Exactly.
together a long enough drive to where your defense, even if you can't get points from it, a good three to five,
Yeah,
5 minute, 6 minute drive, 7 minute
exactly.
drive. That's great. You know, don't give it right back. And that's probably the biggest flaws, you know, that we had last year. So trust me, I know exactly what y'all are going through on that case because that just sucks. That's a horrible feeling, man. When you know you got a good defense and they're balling out and getting picks and fumbles and they go right back on the field. It's like, man, we
Yeah,
could at least got a field goal out of that. I would have felt more accomplished, you know,
it's tough.
in one situations.
Yeah, you talked about Texas. You kind of already answered this question, but um,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say? Like, you played Texas first game of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like that? Do you
I
wish you'd
loved
played?
it.
Did you?
I 100% wanted to play the first
Mm.
because what it gave us was a realistic opportunity to see where we are against the absolute best first. So
Yeah.
now, once we fix the kinks and everything, and to see how good we did against Texas at the
Hmm.
very first game, and being able to score on them 2 times, being able to move the ball as well as we did, like Gore controlled the offense at a very good pace, moved the balls, got some big completions, did some stuff like that. I would be confident enough to say if Gore doesn't underthrow Rashida on 2 plays, we probably beat Texas. She just underthrew on 2. One of them was just her and Jesus running up the field. Nobody was beside her. She underthrew her by a hair. It was a couple of plays where Candace Davis dropped a pass out of the backfield, and it was nobody beside her. I think they blitzed everybody. And, some defensive coverages were blown. Again, that goes back to the gelling as a team because our players just flat out admitted, I didn't really know my teammate was going to be there. They probably saw something at practice that they didn't trust or something like that. So trying to do somebody else's job, Liz Landry is wide open. That's the type of things you can't do against Texas. You got to do your job because, like I say, other than that, we were stopping them, got turnovers like how we always do against Texas, got fumbles, interceptions. We play them tough every time. So Texas to us isn't intimidating at all. It's just, all right, y'all beat us by experience this time. Last time you beat us because you just flat out better. Second time you beat us because you had more weapons, more trained weapons. This time you beat us from experience. Cool. That means as right now, they're the better team. And we have no problem admitting that. So we're going to keep regrouping and coming back. And it's like, we're not going anywhere. They're going to have to understand that we're not going anywhere. So, yeah, one of those situations where we'll get you eventually.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's up, man. I'm when I tell people I'm a fan of women's football, I'm a fan of the WNFC. I mean that wholeheartedly. So
You're right.
whatever's better for the league. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like you said, ideally we probably have about 24 teams total. Right now we have 16.
Right.
But when we gain teams that are good teams,
Yep.
that pumps me up. When I see a player like D Scott, one of the best players in the
Exactly.
nation,
Yep.
going to a
Exactly.
WNFC team, even
Yep.
though we got a player in week one, I like that. I want that.
Exactly.
You know what I
It's
mean?
still
Like
good. It's
it's
still
not
good.
about it's not about me or the Denver Bandits. It's about what's good for the overall. And so
Right.
I love seeing WNFC teams getting better, recruiting, having good numbers, doing good with marketing,
Mm-hmm.
athletes coming to WNFC through the transfer portal. Like what I
Yep.
mean, it's
And
all
kudos to you, man. People don't give you enough credit for that transfer portal. That was a good idea. And it's
yeah,
working out. People don't give you enough credit, man. That thing is nice. I like how you did it because, again, like you say, this isn't one of those situations where girls have agents to speak for them and managers and stuff like that to kind of do all the behind the door texting and saying, well, hey, these people are offering you this and something. No, they kind of got to be
their
seen as
own.
selfish, seen as, well, you're unloyal. No, they're just looking for something that's better for them. They're putting their bodies on the line. They're the one playing for free. They're probably paying to play, so they want to be comfortable. They want to be happy. So their transfer portal, I think, was great because, you kind of sort of, you're their manager. You're their spokesman for everybody. You set their groundwork. So I want to give you your props, man. I like that. That thing was nice for them. I definitely
Yeah,
think it works too.
I appreciate that. I think it's off
Mm-hmm.
to a good start.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to successfully transfer about, I don't know, 18 players or something like that.
I was about to
To
say, yeah, 18 now, right? I get
yeah,
notifications every time I'm in the group.
okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, so
Yeah.
you've been seeing it. So I
Yeah.
think we're doing a good job of like, the what I'm proud of, Camry, is the page is completely unbiased. So like even
Mm-hmm.
though I obviously have invested interest in Denver Bandits, I'm a fan of the WNFC. I'm in the WNFC. Um, I thought it was important for the transfer portal to be unbiased so that
Mm-hmm.
if a player comes in there or an athlete or she's looking for a new team or she's whatever, she can't tell who I'm with. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Like all this stuff is listed in alphabetical order. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like there's no so that's
Right.
I intentionally did it that way because I didn't want it to be a WNFC portal. You know what I'm saying? I wanted
Right.
it to be an
Right.
athlete portal where it doesn't cost anybody anything. But the most important part is that, like you said, these athletes deserve to be recruited.
Yep.
So before this was created, athletes when they wanted to find a new team, they were on their own. It's like the Wild
Exactly.
West, and there's
Figure
all
it out.
DMs and good
Mm-hmm.
luck. So I felt like the athletes are they should be pursued. And so
Mm-hmm.
instead of all the pressure being on them to find a new team, it should be the other way around. So they announce that they're a free agent, then all the teams have the fair shot to go
Right.
after them. You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Then you
It's like,
feel,
yeah,
you
it's
know,
great. Like I say,
yeah,
it's legitimately great. Because again, until we get to the point to where they have agents and managers representing them and saying, "Hey, my client is free to do this," blah 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 blah. Start shopping around for teams.
yeah,
That's People think it's easy to just DM somebody and say, "Hey, I want to play football." It's not that easy, because a lot of people don't like rejection.
yeah,
Because let's say you write 3 teams and all of them say, "Oh, we don't need a running back, we don't need a center, we don't need a this." Now you've taken that guesswork out and say, "Hey, tell me what you want. Tell me what you're looking for. Great coaching staff, location, what
yeah,
position do you play? I'll do the rest and I'll ship it out." And
yeah,
now it's like, oh dang, I got picked up. Now they feel recruited. Now
yeah.
they automatically come into the team with more appreciation for that team,
Mhm.
more appreciation for themselves and what they decided to do in their endeavors. Less worry, less stress. Like I say, man, that was a dope idea. I really liked it.
Yeah.
That was
You can
dope.
tell that we thought it through very well. Like
Right,
we thought about all the details, like what can we put out to these teams to give them all the details that they need, right? So
right.
if you previously played, you know, quarterback, but you're only
Mm-hmm.
interested in playing receiver, guess what? It's on there. It says
Yep,
previous positions quarterback, desired
yep.
positions receiver. So now,
Exactly.
you know what I'm saying?
Yep.
The teams are like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, yeah, we need a receiver. We don't all of our receivers are horrible. We don't have any.
Right.
Now everything's being streamlined. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's been happy, man. There's been people that are critical. Burmy has his own opinions. He's
Yeah,
super
man.
WFA
Yeah,
homer,
he's a
but
superhero for WFA.
yeah, so there's always going to be that, but I've heard mostly good reviews, and so what I hope is that this is the first year of the transfer portal, so like the word's still getting out. So there's about 500 people that have joined. So
Mm-hmm.
what I hope happens is this upcoming off season, all those numbers I just posted as the summary double.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So we processed 18 athletes. I hope next year is 36. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? It just keeps on getting bigger and bigger.
Have you thought about presenting this to like both of the leagues and saying, "Hey, this is what we're doing"? It's just a third party entity to make sure they know that first off it stays neutral. But
Yeah,
maybe even having like one of those, like I know with the WNFC they have the all hands meeting,
yeah,
stuff like that, to where we can present these ideas to girls and stuff. Because players in the WNFC we have an agreement as coaches, as owners. I don't know if you know, but we all agreed to basically have no compete clauses against each other. We don't really pursue other people's athletes. No matter what we hear, no matter what,
I've heard that.
if they come to us, we always are supposed to say, "Hey, let's see if we can work this out with your coach first." Because they do it like that because they're trying to keep these teams' brands growing. They don't want the best players all on one team. And I get that.
Right.
But with the transfer portal, because they can't stop that player from recruiting, they can't stop that player from leaving. But with
Yeah,
the transfer portal, I feel like that'll kind of even the odds out. Like I can't make her want to stay even. If she doesn't
yeah,
want to play for Utah and she wants to play for Denver, I can't make her stay in Utah. I
right.
can tell her, "Hey, maybe we can talk with your coach and see what we can arrange." But if they're done, they're done.
Mhm.
You know. So it's just one of those situations to where I think that'd be cool if you could talk to the WFA and the WNFC and just let them know, like, "Hey, maybe you can use our platform to help y'all out with a problem." Because
Mhm.
I'm sure they have that problem, and it'll grow it. And who knows, man, you can probably start getting people into the things. I don't know. I don't want to talk too much, but you can start probably getting more and more people to come work with you and whoever helped you start the transfer portal, even if it was just you. And now you can probably start getting to the end of to where those people can start being the first representers of those players. Like I represent these 10 players. I represent these players. And now we can start building agents from the inside out instead of having to pay people. And now you
Yeah.
literally are building everything dealing with the game of women football from the inside out. That would be cool to me, even having people.
Well, it would be very cool. It's one of those things that it sounds good on paper, right?
Yeah, but
But
it's
then, like
hard.
when you think of the actual details of how that would work,
Mm-hmm.
um, if you had a person that's designated agent for 10 players, you got to
Mm-hmm.
think, okay, what are you paying them? And if you are paying
Right.
them, how much are you paying them? And if you're not
Right.
paying them, what guarantee is that they're actually doing their job correctly? Right. So
Right.
like
Exactly.
for me, it's about I care about quality. So whatever
Mm-hmm.
product I'm putting out, I want to make sure it's a good product and that it's fair.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so with your idea, the only risk I would be is if people don't do their part.
Yeah.
Now it's making me look bad because
Right.
it's an idea that sounded good on paper, but then people didn't do
Right.
their
Right.
job. And
And
so
that's always the
sure,
scary part, man. People doing their
it's
part.
tricky.
There's always the scary part. People got to do their part. Like you can believe in your dream, but that's not their dream. They might not
Yeah.
believe in it the same way. They might not care to,
Yeah.
be that stand up. But yeah, it's still cool nonetheless. Even the way you're doing it right now is perfect.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I would say
Mm-hmm.
my only response to that before we get going is I think that it sounds nice. Like ideally, the WNFC and the WFA would be fully on board with the transfer portal, and we'd all
Mm-hmm.
be in communication, and it would all be hunky dory, singing "Kumbaya."
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the reality is that when I started the transfer portal, I literally got a DM. What was it? The WNFC DMing the owner of the Denver Bandits to DM me to tell me to take the WNFC logo off of my graphic
Mm-hmm.
because it's not a league sponsored thing.
Mm-hmm.
So like all I did was make a graphic and it had like the WFA logo, the WNFC logo,
Right.
a generic player, transfer portal, like a cool graphic. You know what I mean? Nothing
Right.
crazy.
Right. Right. Right.
Just that. They complained about that
Yeah.
because they had their
Mm-hmm.
logo. And I'm like, damn,
Right.
man, like I'm trying to help you. And like
Yeah.
almost all the
Right.
players have transferred to WNFC teams. Like
Yeah.
this isn't like something you should be pushing it back against. But
Mm-hmm.
I understand the WNFC they're very serious about their brand and
Right.
you know, it is what it is. Then with the WFA, I mean, I relied on Burmy to give me accurate information about the team because they have freaking 90 teams in their league.
Exactly.
So um, with WFA, I'm not really on any terms or good terms with their leadership group.
Yeah.
One of the women that run WFA is the former owner of the Blaze, which I used to coach, which I'm no longer friends with her.
Yeah.
Asa King and Jeff King, they've been the owner of the league forever. I don't really talk to them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not, besides me talking to Burmy and DMs and him giving me accurate information about the league, there's not really any open communication about the league caring about the portal or wanting to facilitate it. You know what I mean? And so
Right. Yeah.
it kind of is what it is. And so I've just
Yeah.
kind of been like, all right, it's cool.
You by
I won't
yourself.
use your,
Yeah.
it is what it is, man. Like it's not
Yeah.
about me. I don't even care about getting credit. It's just about these athletes having a streamlined process to find a team. That's all that
Right.
matters to me.
That's all that
And
matters. Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And that's
uh,
good, man. Like I say, unfortunately, you know how the beef is between the two. So now, since I think about it, it probably won't work. Probably gotta keep it like what you do.
yeah.
Yeah, just forget everything I said. You just delete that part from the podcast. Yeah,
No,
but
I
I get it.
appreciate you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, next season, hopefully everything doubles. I'm going to keep on doing what I'm doing. Crank out the graphics and make sure that
Mm-hmm.
everything stays on the up and up. But this season's awesome, man. It's off to a great start. In my opinion, I'll go on the record as saying this. I think the Mississippi Panthers are the second best team in the Central.
Well,
As
I
of right
appreciate
now,
that. Mm-hmm.
that's how I feel. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so if Kansas City just beat Philadelphia 8-6, that makes me think that that first week one score of 40-0 should be looked at a little bit differently. But
Yeah.
if that's the way it is, then Texas, let's assume Texas is going to be number one in the Central. And let's say I'm right and Mississippi's number two in the Central. Then
Mm-hmm.
that only leaves one more spot for one of those wild card bids to get in the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs, right?
Right.
So if that, in my opinion, that's going to be Denver or Houston,
Mm-hmm.
which obviously it doesn't help that we just lost to Houston. But depending on how we finish our season, we could make a playoff run and be one of those wild
Right.
card teams.
So it's the top two teams in every conference, right? Top
Plus two
two
wild cards.
plus two wild cards. Yeah. So okay.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Denver could make it. I
we
definitely see y'all
could.
being able to make it. Yeah.
We
Like I
could.
say, I I don't really. Yesterday kind of proved my theory right with Kansas
Yeah.
City. I don't think they're that great. I think they beat Florida.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on in Florida, but they really haven't been that good for years.
Yeah.
And so that's one of those situations that's hard to kind of read into. Florida just beat a brand new team, but only by 6 points. So again, Florida's Florida. So Kansas City beat Florida, but they struggled against Philly, who also went 0-6 last year. So it's one of those situations where I'm like, well, can you, like you said, can you count that Florida wins so high? I get it's a win. I get they're 2-0, but some teams lost better than they won.
Right.
And that sounds so crazy, but some teams lost better than they won. So even Houston, in my opinion, well, that was a lot of points but that's Texas. Again, it's Texas. They got beat like that by Texas. So I don't know. Denver losing to Houston, to me, is not as bothersome as Kansas City barely beating Philly. Does that make sense?
Right, it does.
I feel like Denver losing to Houston is like, okay, they played a new team. They didn't know what to expect. Zero film, zero expectations. Cool. But you lost to Philly or barely beat Philly. That's a question mark.
Yeah.
Especially if you're supposed to be one of the top teams,
It's way different. You're right. So we'll see how it all shakes out, man. Like I said, we have no easy games. Every game counts, like you said. And so we have a tough schedule. But in my opinion, Houston and Kansas City have, well, I wouldn't say the hardest schedules. Houston actually has the hardest schedule, in my opinion, because they play Texas twice and they have no easy games.
Right.
Kansas City has a tough schedule because they played Texas twice, but they also play some easy games.
They
Obviously,
play some very easy games. They just played their first two games with cakewalks.
Florida
and
and Philly's a way different start than
exactly
the rest of us.
Yeah, everybody else is kind of like, this could be a loss, that could be a loss. Everything is hard. Like I said, we had Texas out the gate, so but I like it.
But yeah, we're gonna see how it goes down. Hopefully, we can get our first win against Seattle, and then see if we can make a run. Because the thing we have going against us is us losing to Houston. Obviously, they would have the tiebreaker. But if we finish our season strong, and win most of our games, you can make the argument that by the end of the season we're better than Houston.
Yeah,
and if
I'm trying to look at what's
you know
Houston's schedule. I'm trying to look at their schedule. There it is.
They played us and then Texas.
They get a bye week this week. They get a bye week, then they play us, then they play Texas, then they play Kansas City and Tennessee. So, yeah, they'll probably beat Tennessee. Every other game is like, you probably won't win. You never know. You probably won't win. You probably won't lose. I would like to see them versus Kansas City. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
But again, like I say, I don't know. Y'all have a harder schedule, I feel, than both of those people. And if strength of schedule is supposed to be weighed into playoffs, that's something they have to consider.
They should.
Definitely, because y'all play Utah, Texas, then Utah. It's literally both championship game people back to back. So, and y'all play us the week before Texas.
Yeah,
the last 3 games are crazy. So I get it. That's gonna be fun, man. I've never been to Denver. That's the game I'm most excited about.
Yeah, you'll have to let me know once you book your travel plans for Denver, how long you're going to be here, so we can go grab like lunch or dinner. You know what I'm saying, before the game.
Absolutely.
Depending on how long you're here for, maybe we could do something else too. But just let me know.
Yeah, I'll probably try to get. I'm gonna try to take off Thursday so I can make it there either Thursday or Friday.
Yeah,
and kind of just chill for a while, because last year I drove to Philly. I'm not doing that. I'm not driving to Denver. That's 17 hours, because it's 17 hours both trips, and I'm just like, nope, I'm not doing that. So
we just did that for Houston, and that took everything out of me. Driving to Houston.
How far was that drive?
16 hours.
Yeah. And that's another thing that people got to consider, man. Like, travel is a beast. Travel is a beast. Like I say, it's because it took everything out of us when we played Philly. But not my players. I was the only one that really drove, me and my Australians. But everybody else flew. But yeah, man, it was. I won't recommend that at all. But yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah.
That was terrible.
I hear you, man. Well, it's great to talk to you.
Oh yeah,
I'm really stoked for the rest of the season. Your squad is amazing.
I
You're
appreciate it.
amazing.
I
And like I
appreciate it.
said, basically we're just trying to fight for that wild card spot. So hopefully we're able
Well,
to. But
again, man, I won't even say that. It's so early. It's so early. We
well,
on again
that's true.
the thing that I don't want people to do, and especially my team, on paper for 3 years we've been dangerous, but you don't play a game on paper. You play it on the field. We're still 0-1 no matter how we want to look at it.
Yeah,
No matter how much. So who's to say we won't lose to Washington? Who's to say we won't go get beat by
that's
Houston and
right.
Denver? Who's to
That's a
say?
good way. That's a better way to
You
look at
know.
it.
So I'm not saying anything like I don't see I'm the number 2 team. As of right now, I'm the number
Yeah.
4 or 5 ranked team where they got me. That's where they got us. So that's what we are. I go by truths, not hopes.
Amen.
So yeah,
I,
that's
I
me.
respect that.
Yep,
You live in what is, not what could be, and so I
exactly.
respect that. That's a
What
good.
could be is irrelevant.
Yeah.
I could be a millionaire, but I'm not. I wish. So yeah, man.
All right, man.
Absolutely.
Well, I appreciate your time. Good luck this week against Washington. We'll
Appreciate it.
see. We'll see how much that 31-0 victory really plays out as them being a good team versus you. I think you guys are
Mm-hmm.
tough, man. Your roster's stacked.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I think any team not named Texas is going to have their hands full,
Mm-hmm.
including Washington and Atlanta. So we'll see
Yeah,
how that plays out. But we'll stay in touch for sure. And then once it gets
absolutely.
closer to you coming to Denver, let me know. When you're
Okay.
arriving and stuff.
I definitely will, man. Like I said, good luck against Seattle. I'll
Appreciate
keep
that.
you posted on all our travel plans, especially mine. And yeah, we definitely have to link up in Denver, man. Definitely. Before and
Okay.
after, probably.
All right.
So yeah.
Sounds good, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, Terry.
All right. Later, brother.